That might be a resource. For you. Do have something like.
Speed, even if we have to.
I mean, my brother texted me.
You could, I mean, quite honestly, having problems finding revamp.
Because of the incident with the tree. I know. Okay. We'll call this committee of the whole meeting to order on December 10th, 2024 at 6:01 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. We'll start off this evening with public participation. We do have someone who would like to speak to the council this evening, Kathy Williams. Kathy, if you'd like to step forward. Oh, yeah.
I put my glasses on because I can't see anything either. For those of you that don't know, my name is Kathy Williams, and I am the coordinator for the Lincoln Winter Wonderland Festival in downtown Lincoln. I started this event 6 years ago for no other reason than to spread Christmas cheer. The holidays can be a difficult time, and I wanted everyone to have the opportunity for some peace at the holidays. Unfortunately, a selfish individual took that away for one of our local families on Monday morning around 3 a.m. This family's tree, which was in memory of their daughter, was stolen right off the stake, handmade ornaments and all. This completely contradicts everything this event stands for. I am aware that the police are investigating the issue, and for that I am very thankful. I am also thankful that they do regular patrols around our downtown and keep an eye on things. I realize, like many businesses, they are short-staffed and doing the best they can. And I do appreciate everything that they do for our community. They are not in the wrong here. This issue goes much higher. We need to make sure that the governor is aware of the issues our small towns are having due to his no-cash bail system. These criminals need to take accountability for their actions and be held responsible. Not only does the no-cash bail issue let criminals go as quickly as they are charged, it also endangers the lives of our police force. These criminals do not have any accountability, therefore they do not care who they hurt, who they steal from, or what law they break, because they know they will be freed right away. I am asking everyone here listening or watching to please contact your higher-up government officials and tell them how this no-cash bail is hurting your community, the one in which you raise your families. Call them, send them an email, send them a letter, however you have to do it. Just let them know this needs to be changed, because until it does, we will continue to see the problems we are seeing now. Our local police officers can only do so much. Unfortunately, their hands are tied by the laws set forth by the governor of Illinois. With that being said, I always try to end on a positive note. My husband always tells me, when you continue to be angry with someone that has done you wrong, this is just giving them power over you. And I will not give this Grinch that honor. Therefore, I am inviting all of you downtown to the west side of the square tomorrow on Wednesday at 6 p.m., where our community will pull together and give this family back some Christmas hope. My husband went today and a tree was donated. He went and picked it up. So we got them a new tree. We've got the lights to go on it. And so together our community will prove that good will win out over evil. We have to be the good we want to see in this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Chief, did you want to speak about the Crime Stoppers of the week?
Sure.
Regarding this incident?
So even before this incident occurred, I had been working with Crime Stoppers, which is an entity on its own, aside from the police department. We kind of just work hand in hand about promoting Crime Stoppers and hopefully seeing more participation, because as I told you all in a meeting before, their funding's been cut. Also effective the Safety Act. So we're trying to get some donations into Crime Stoppers to make the program more robust, and a part of that is going to be doing a Crime of the Week. Lloyd Kirby at WLCN has reached out to us to work with Crime Stoppers to have a radio aired Crime of the Week, and then we can also use the Crime Stoppers Facebook page to share the crime of the week. So basically, each week we'll submit what we think we need to. Say if we have a crime reported like this one and there's no evidence that we were able to collect, or no statements, witnesses, or something like that, it'll help us get that information out there and hopefully get some cooperation out of the community so that we can complete the investigation.
Thanks, Chief. Alderman Parrott, and then
Thank you, Kathy, for bringing this forward. And we've been speaking on this matter in previous meetings. And I had brought up perhaps an idea. I wanted to get back with our attorney, John Hoblet, on is it a possibility, without the city getting in trouble, of having a top watch list for repeat offenders that we could put pictures and names on our website? Because if this is, a regular occurrence from individuals, I think that would be appropriate, so that if you see these individuals walking around maybe in places that they probably shouldn't be, might want to keep an eye out on it, like a neighborhood watch type deal.
Mr. Barron, I know we brought this up at an earlier date, but I'm going to have to get back to you on that respective issue. I know there is a top 10 most wanted list I've seen, but to be honest, I don't know many city websites that put that type of information out at all, like on their respective website. I would be somewhat hesitant to even kind of broach that path, going down that path there. But I could certainly look into it. But if I was to shoot on the hip on this one, I'd probably say no.
I would have to agree with the attorney. Most wanted lists are developed and put out to the community after a court has found probable cause that somebody has committed that offense, or they failed to appear in court after having been charged with an offense. Putting somebody's image out there and labeling them as a burglar or a thief or whatever that may be, without a court finding probable cause that is the truth, I think the city could be liable for damages such as defamation of character or something like that.
And I think the terminology I used was top watched list, not wanted. So, it's not that they necessarily were convicted or whatever, but if we have repeat offenders, this is getting kind of ridiculous. We've had numerous people in here now, bringing these issues up, to the council, and I think we need to not just wait on the governor to try to help lessen these experiences that our residents are having, but we have to do something.
Alderwoman McClellan.
So just going back a little bit to Wednesday, did you want the public to bring ornaments for it, or do you want the people just as support?
So and that's part of the reason I was here tonight. We have been just slammed with calls, text, everything today. The community has really come together in, what can we do? How can we help this family? And I've heard good, bad, and everything. And the one thing I said is, kudos to your staff, because you guys are doing, you were right there when we contacted you. So, it's not the city. So we appreciate them. We appreciate the community coming together. I did put out a post, I don't know, a few hours ago. It's been a long day. We put out a post a few hours ago because we have so many people saying, we're going to bring ornaments. We're going to bring this. This tree doesn't need 5,000 ornaments. It's only 5.5 foot tall. It is a pretty tree. We did get it put up, and we're going to put the lights on it probably in the morning. So we have asked if it's not necessary, but if people do want to participate to help show unity amongst our community, they can bring one ornament. And I noticed right before I got here that they reached out, the family reached out and kind of said what the young lady that passed was into. So I appreciate that. I've been working with them, trying to do some, things just to honor this family, because they didn't deserve this. They didn't deserve the loss of their daughter, and they don't deserve to be treated like this. So it's just my way of how can I give back.
Alderman Bateman.
Chief, didn't the city just recently post that you're taking registrations for home security cameras? So how does that work? Does someone just tell you the address? They don't need to tell you where the camera is placed or anything like that? It's just a list of properties that have security cameras, so you would have the opportunity to...
It's up to the registrant how much detail they want to provide. We have a registration form that's available online on the city website, and then it's also available just to hand out at the police department if they'd come into the lobby. It identifies the address where the camera exists, who owns it and has control of it. So I get a name, a phone number, and an address. What type of video that camera is capable of, if it's video, audio, infrared. You know, there's little boxes that you can check. But if a person doesn't want to say, I have 10 cameras, all they have to do is fill out the form to the point that they're comfortable with. So name, address, phone number. That way we compile that into a system, and then we don't have to go out walking around the blocks to try to find people's cameras and knock on doors. We have a name and a phone number right away. And we can give that person a call and say, would you mind checking, between 1 and 3 a.m. on your camera in the alley, and see if you have any footage of what we're looking for. And then it's also up to them if they wanted to give that footage over as evidence. We don't have any access to their cameras. Basically, it's just a registration form that tells us where they exist in the city.
So is that something we could share? It's on the city website, but can we put it on the city Facebook page, a link? Or
Yes.
I clicked on it. The form is kind of long. Or
Yeah, we need to fix
when
the
you
form.
when you click on the city website one, it populates the whole screen.
Yes.
If we can shorten it down or abbreviate it or whatever, but I think it's a great idea. That way, everybody's watched crime dramas on TV. The first thing the cops do is start looking around for cameras, and if the chief has a list of homes that have security cameras facing forward, backward, or like you said, just they can give out the information they want, and that helps with it.
Well, and in this particular case, I'd say thank you to the city council for authorizing the spending of the cameras in the downtown area, because the Downtown Safety Initiative is what has given the police department the tools they need to investigate this particular crime. So, and to the chief for making that happen as well.
Yeah, we've seen some success with that program. We solved a burglary a couple of months ago that happened right behind your business, and some criminal damage issues. And then also we're expanding that. I've already signed the deal with the company that provides the cameras and installs them to cover the Shea parking lot, and then behind the old movie theater, so that big open gravel lot there, and then also the arcade tunnel, going both directions.
Alderman Eimer was first, I think. Did you still have something?
So, I'm going back to what Steve said. Not wanted, but you can't use the word watch list. You don't recommend that either?
I'm kind of in the same, of the same opinion as the city attorney. I can't say 100% right now, but I would say if a government entity pasted a label on a private citizen without having a conviction, we, may see the raw end of that deal.
So
But
if
I-
you, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. That was pretty much done.
So if you had, a private person that was able to get that information and to put onto a Facebook page with the most watched,
There are Facebook
Facebook
groups.
page has
Oh,
got
really?
a full list of people.
oh,
There are
there you go.
people who are working together within the community to watch their neighborhoods, and they're doing so with the advice of the chief. In some cases, I know he's working with some people.
Neighborhood watch. I think the next meeting's
21st.
21st. out at the Park District, they have a neighborhood watch meeting where citizens get together just to discuss issues. The police know about it.
Well, the one I was talking about is going to be at the boardroom on the 21st
Yeah,
at
they
6
moved it
o'clock.
to the boardroom. It was at the Park District last time, yes.
But my question would be then, for this case, can you just kind of talk about if you're able to investigate and come to an identity of the individual, what would happen to that individual?
If we obtain enough information to reach the level of probable cause, which is the greater likelihood that the person did commit the offense, and we can show evidence of that supports that, they would be arrested, just like any other case. An arrest isn't a conviction. An arrest
But in this case, for an arrest would be, okay, you get their paperwork and you say, okay, thank you very much, you can leave.
no, I'd take them to jail and book them in, but then they at the jail would say, "Here's your court date. Now you can leave."
Okay, all right.
And due to that act,
Right, do the
can-
act, you're
they
not
can
going to
fail
keep
to
this
show
person for
up.
very long, right?
no, you're talking about a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Downs has hand up. Ms. Rolfs, did you have something? Okay, Ms. Rolfs and then Mr. Downs. You were before he was.
Your mic.
And here's your microphone on.
Oh.
Thank you.
Our elected state officials, you said you're referring to the governor. Is this something our elected state officials, Sally and Bill, could putting pressure on?
I'm already working on it.
Oh, okay.
No, I'll elaborate. So I've spoke with both Sally and Bill about this, Senator Turner and Representative Howder, and they absolutely want to hear from their constituents. But in this particular case, it wasn't either of them who voted in favor of this legislation. I actually received the roll call votes for the bills that were passed that show who voted in favor of these and who didn't. So what I'd like to do is compile those so that we can start and I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody. I'm simply saying if you want to get your voice heard with the right people who can make the change, these are the individuals that did because they voted it in. We can still ask our representatives to speak with their colleagues, but I think the constituents and the voters' voice will go much further. And I also think that the governor's office needs to hear.
Now, is that a list that can be shared on our Facebook page or website
Yes.
or anything?
Yep, I just actually got it in what I consider raw form this evening. So it's simply their last name, initial, and how they voted. I'd like to put the list together to have their name, where they represent, and their phone number, how people can easily contact them. So we'll get that put together and get it to everybody as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Mr. Downs.
Okay, sorry. I raised my hand up earlier and then I forgot what I was going to say and then I kind of remembered again. But it was kind of in regards to what Steve was mentioning and the list of repeat offenders. And I know that there's a handful of social media pages that are dedicated to neighborhood watch type activity and that they do publish oftentimes the arrest names of individuals who were recently arrested. However, there's no mugshots. How would one get mugshots of, just so we could kind of put a face to a name?
That's all through the county jail. So that would be a question for the sheriff or his jail administrator. We don't take mug shots. All the booking procedure is taken care of by the sheriff's department.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Williams or the chief?
Thank you, Kathy.
Yes. I know this is near and dear to your heart and the family. We feel really terrible for that family and what they've already gone through and the memories that this has created, unfortunately, for them. But I hope the whole community shows up tomorrow night. I know I'll be
And I
there.
don't know if I'll have 2 people or I'll have 200 people. I want this family to know that we, as a community, we have their back. So
Agreed.
that's what this event's for. So
It's going to be Christmas parade temperatures.
I know.
That's all right.
I can't do a Christmas tree festival in July. Nobody will let me.
Which side of the square is the tree gonna?
It's right across the street from my store.
Oh, okay.
Kickapoo Street.
Yeah, it's on Kickapoo, so it's like the 4th tree in on the north side.
It was a beautiful tree.
It was
Really
very
was.
pretty. It was very pretty. One last thing I have, and I know I had talked to Chief about this earlier. If anybody has any idea who did this, whatever, the only thing I ask, the tree's replaceable. Some of the ornaments, most of them were just, store bought. Not that the topper they had on this tree was stunning. It was made by the dad. It had the picture of the young lady that was on it with angel wings. So if anybody listening knows or sees this, I just want that back. I put it on my doorstep anonymously. I don't care. I just want to give this family back that. That's all I ask.
Agreed. Thank you, Kathy. Mr. Bateman.
The Safety Act passed Illinois Congress 38-17, straight down party line. 38 Democrats voted for, 17 Republicans voted against.
Yeah, there were numerous bills though that led up to the final vote, and I suspect because the list I got did not put party line or party on there, but I suspect it went down party lines as well. But regardless, I think whoever voted in favor of that are the people that need to hear the voices of the community, the voices of the chief, the voices of the council, because all of us in our communities, we're not the only community going through this. And those that put the legislation into place, they need to hear how their act is affecting our communities. And hopefully we can influence them with a loud voice to go back and make some amendments to that bill. I'm sure that the chief and his peers have plenty of recommendations for how to improve that.
Well, when this act was being worked on, obviously, you already said there was a lot of trailer bills introduced during session. This group that brought the Safety Act forward did allow a seat at the table for the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and the Sheriff's Association. They were told exactly how this was going to affect the state of Illinois, policing, and the citizens before the act ever took effect, and they knew. But now, maybe with a lot of loud, angry people, we can hopefully convince them to get back into their right mind.
And I also look forward to your report that I know that you're working on to show statistics because, voices are one thing, but data's another. Data doesn't lie.
Yeah, I should have that done for everyone before the end of January because I won't have, December numbers.
Right. Agreed. Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Kathy. See you tomorrow night.
Yep.
Okay, the next item up is item number 4, Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly Wastewater Treatment Plant Dechlorination Addition. Mr. Bounds.
All right, so I've placed a paper on each one of your desks that gives you a very rudimentary idea of some of the changes we're going to see, some of the to-dos that we're going to have to do with the new permit that is now down on display in the clerk's office. One of them that we need to move on engineering for right now is the addition of dechlorination to the plant. That would be removing the chlorination stream from the effluent or deactivating it as a word, so no chlorine residual or relatively none is hitting Salt Creek. This is a law change that's taking place under this permit cycle for the city. There's no option but to do this. So we've got Mr. Remmer here from CMT to answer any specifics about the engineering project, but it is something we have to move forward with. The work order number 12 as presented in the agenda is for $65,000 in engineering costs for the dechlorination project.
Alderman Bateman.
How much, I know you're just gonna have to guess, what do you think the percentage of chlorine in the water is just from individuals using too much chlorine?
Relatively none. So influent coming into the plant is almost non-existent. There is a chlorination demand due to the total suspended solids, the biological oxygen demand produced by every single person using the sewer system on a daily basis that eats up the chlorine that is in your water supply for disinfection.
The chlorination that we're going to have to be removing is the chlorination that we add between the months of May 1st to October 31st for disinfection prior to it going down to Salt Creek. So we are still going to disinfect it. We are just going to remove the disinfectant after we've disinfected it. I hope that was
You're using
clear.
you're using chlorine to clean the water, and then you've got to clean the water to clean the water.
Correct.
Works for me.
Any other questions for Mr. Bounds? Alderman Parrott?
Just a quick question, and with the new administration coming in, and this is probably more for American Water, but if they take out fluoride, right, what do you guys do with that? Anything?
Fluoride could potentially show up on semi-annual metals testing. What they add is typically hydrofluorosilicic acid. I don't see that going in there anywhere with the new administration, but I guess we'll have to see.
Just curious. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So place this on the regular agenda?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We will place item number 4 on the regular agenda. Next item is item number 5, the funding agreement between the City of Lincoln and the Logan County Tourism Bureau. Ms. McCray?
Has a nice ring to it. So this is the funding agreement that we've proposed for the fiscal year 2025. So far, we've stuck with the 95% that we've done the last couple of years, and our commitments to the city have not changed. Our usual duties are listed there on the second page, as well as some other requirements for the job, just like physical and personal requirements. But like I said, at least for commitments, none of those items have changed as of last year.
Alderman Bateman?
Believe it or not, I called Mr. Conzo before the meeting. Very rare.
It is
We don't talk much.
Maybe you should.
So I asked him to gather some numbers for us because, in my opinion, and I've had plenty of conversations with the mayor and other people in the community, that the city of Lincoln, we need to spend some of our own money on our own stuff. So I asked Chuck to take year-to-date numbers. What would the additional funding that the city would keep if we dropped the funding agreement from 95 to 90% or from 95 to 85%? How much would that give the city to put in our tourism fund for us to use for stuff like the mural and other things that we've discussed wanting to do around town?
Thanks,
Floor's
Counselor.
yours, Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Alderman Bateman. By the way, it's good talking to you. Year to date, we've taken in $131,761.66, of which Mrs. McCray will be more than the percentage that we've passed on to you, because that includes receipts as of the late part of November, which have not been forwarded yet, but will be in the next week. Of that, if we keep 95% of that as we have, that's $125,173.80. So it's about $6,600, almost $6,700 that we're keeping at that rate. If we were to keep 10% and forward 90% to tourism, that would be $118,585. So and 50 cents. So you see that goes up by about another, almost another $7,000, about $6,600 more that we would have if we were to drop it from 95% to 95%. Keep it in mind, now this is through 7 months, the year to date. So we're talking about only 7 months, not 12 months. If we were to forward 85% of that to tourism and to retain 15%, they would be getting $111,997.92, which is again about $6,500 more that we'd be keeping than at 90%. Or bottom line is, we'd be keeping almost $20,000 out of the 131,000. Because you'd have 100, right now we're taking in 100, year to date, we've taken in 131,761. If we were to forward only 85% of that tourism, we would retain about just under 20,000 of that.
We would,
Now,
that's 20,000 total we would have, or 20,000 extra?
no, 20,000 total. 6,000 of that we would, or 6,600 of that we would have anyway at 95%. So about 13,500.
And how much is left in that fund now?
Right now, with what's been paid out, we haven't figured out what we, the current, the next distribution, but generally, when we get down to just a couple $1,000s in that fund now, by the time we take in whatever we've, Julie receipts in, and then we issue a check to tourism, that's because we have spent what we had accumulated in the past over several years, we've spent that out. So now there's just a couple $1,000s left in it typically by the end of the month.
So personally, I know it'd be a hit to tourism, but we represent the city of Lincoln, and the citizens of Lincoln elected us to sit here. I think there's a lot of things that we leave on the table, ideas that we talk about, but we really have no way of funding them. Christmas lights, for one. My wife and I driving in today, both drove through Sherman recently at night. Their thoroughfare, which is like Wyatt Avenue and stuff, they've got the light poles decorated beautiful with reefs on the top. Those are some of the things we could use that for. Different murals that we could take on ourselves to help represent the city of Lincoln. Advertising for different things for the city of Lincoln, for the events that are just inside the city. I personally would like the city to consider going to an 85%. If we don't find things to use this money for, we can always change it again later, but we're always trying to find ways to help promote this community, but we don't have the funds to do it. And I think if we had a bigger part of that money, because quite honestly, all the hotel motel tax dollars is raised right here in Lincoln. So I think we would be doing a disservice to not keep a portion that we as the city council have 100% control over on what we spend it for.
Alderwoman Rolfs, and then Alderman Parrott.
Could we have some additional information? I don't know how much the hotel motel taxes either stayed the same, decreased, or increased. Because I think at one time we had a lot more money in hotel motel tax. So I would like to have a list of, let's say, last 5 years.
Mr. Council.
As whether that has been an increase, decrease, or amount stayed the same.
Well, I can tell you it's decreased. I can come up with that information for the last 5 years, but I don't recall it from memory.
Well, no, that's okay. We're not voting tonight.
Yeah,
So.
but a couple of things there. I think certainly the closing of 2 colleges has had an impact on that. Obviously, COVID did for a while, but that's not a permanent thing, although at the time it seemed like it was, but, that hasn't, I don't think still has the impact on it. And we have also lost some of the businesses that we had, I think brought people in. But I think the thing in more recent years that's had the impact is the closing of the colleges. Now, it's not been a huge drop, but there has been a decrease as a result of that. And I can come up with, what we've taken in over the last, I go back to,
I think those amounts are important because, we may say, well, this is fine, they can do with $20,000 less, but if in the next year, the hotel motel tax comes in less, people aren't staying in the hotels or whatever, then that's also a hit that they have to take. So just getting some kind of a general idea of where that's going, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do that.
From a budget perspective, I pulled up the budget for this one. So in 22-23, for instance, we had 2,300 allocated for the Tropic sign. That went up to 3,000 this past budget. I'm assuming that's due to the cost of electricity, maintenance, etc. The Genealogical Society went down from 1,500 to 1,000. We had additional tourism projects and events. In 22-23, we had 20,000 budgeted. We now have 10,000 budgeted. So we've slashed that in half. The pavilions are done. Picnic table replacement's done. And then the only other increase was from Third Fridays. It increased $1,500 over the last couple of years. It was at 6,000. It's now at 7,500. Ms. Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. I kind of go back to what Alderman Bateman was talking about, the balance on that. Typically, when we receive the receipts from the hotel motel tax and we calculate what we pass on to tourism, usually we have about $700 to $800, sometimes a little more, but generally $700 to $800 a month left for any given month. And it varies, you know, that's why I say 700 to 800. Sometimes it's even a little more than that, but it's in that range from month to month.
Things are going up, that's why I think we should.
Alderman Parrott.
Yeah, as Kevin mentioned, things are going up, and it's also going up in tourism as well, too. Alice, would you be able to, at some point, bring to us a percentage of the funds that's spent here in Lincoln that you receive?
Yeah,
I think that would benefit, and I think Kevin would appreciate that because, as Kevin mentioned, these are funds generated here in Lincoln. And, you know, if a majority of the funds are being spent in the city of Lincoln, I think that would help, you know, ease some minds perhaps. And then I think one of the reasons we moved a higher percentage to tourism is because we started having groups of people, entities coming to this city council asking for funds. And I think we tried to encourage them by moving those funds that we were giving at some point, sometimes, to tourism so that those groups can go to tourism, and it keeps this council out of having to vote on those types of things, which I think was a good thing, a good move. And so I think that's one of the reasons that higher percentage went there, I do believe. And so I just wanted to kind of put that out there. But if we were to retain a higher percentage at the city, then I would definitely strongly encourage for those funds to stay with the city for projects like Kevin mentioned, perhaps a mural or some lighting on the mural that we just put up, or, you know, whatever the situation is. That's just what I was sharing.
Alderman Bateman.
I 100% agree. As an entity that asks for funds, I don't go to the tourism and ask for funds. I try to raise them myself for my project. The city does give $2,000 to Dock Dogs. Dock Dogs has gone up significantly. I'm not coming to the city for more money. We're doing that on our own because we do know that was a large event. We're not going to put the burden on taxpayers for an event that a group of 6 of us put on. I think the money should be spent on city things. Either, well, at one point, our parks are going to need maintenance and upkeep because we just spent a lot of money on them parks, but down the road, we're going to need a fund out there to help maintain that stuff. Development of different things that the community could use, different gardens, lighting on that mural. I recently found out that the mechanism to hold that mural up was more than the mural. So that is something, you know, that I know from conversations there was some, you know, having to find funds to pay for that, where if we had the extra funds, we could have put that in with the mural if we knew at the time the building didn't support that. But I think there's a lot of things that several of us have talked about doing for the city, not donating. I'm not in agreement with people coming forward saying, hey, I want you to fund this. I want this money spent on things that the city needs to do to promote itself. That's what I'm thinking we need to save more money for, is different things like that. And we just can't do it with the money we have. And if we get a project, we can know how much to set back each year to pay for it, or at least implement some of these conversations that's been had to help promote the city.
Mr. Hoblet.
So by statute, this money, is taken from the hotels, the motels, and the reasons to use this money for is to promote tourism type events, tourism type issues that would put heads in beds, in the hotels. And so you're taking the money from the hotel. The idea is you're going to use it to promote programs, the city benefits, but ultimately the main beneficiary for this should be the hotels and the motels. You could take a strict construction of this, saying, well, it's only events in Lincoln, and I know, Mr. Perry, you want tourism to provide a list of some sort. You can also take a liberal construction, and I think the city has already kind of taken a more liberal construction already, like say the Tropic sign. Okay, that's not an event. Okay, you guys use that money because it's probably useful for people who are going down the old 66, who are doing that whole route. It has a greater likelihood to bring them in town, and they might stay here the night on their trip. They can through the old 66, so that makes sense. Okay, the murals, that can make sense too. But there is an argument to be said as well, like say for the smaller towns around. Okay, they don't have really hotels and motels there. So, like say if they do an event in Atlanta, they have one hotel there, I think.
They keep their money.
Okay, well they keep their money. Well, I'm saying argumentatively, if like say a tourism were to sponsor like an event outside, there still could be an argument to be said that if there's somebody who's going to the community outside, that they're going to be maybe getting a hotel room in Lincoln while they do it. So there's an argument to be said there as well. But like I said, ultimately statutorily, it's you're kind of trying to focus in on what might get people to be renting hotel rooms in Lincoln.
Alderman Downs.
Yes, I agree with what you said there, John. And I agree with what you said there too, Kevin, about if you if the city wants to generate some funds for our own attractions, but I don't want to hurt tourism to do that. I'm against withholding any money from tourism. That's going to hurt them in a way that it's going to hurt them too much, and they do too much good for the city. If the city wants to save money for its own features and things like that, I'm all for that, but not at the expense of tourism.
Alderwoman McClellan.
I was just curious if off the top of your head you knew how much percentage-wise was spent in town as opposed to in the county.
Off the top of my head, I can't really say. I'd say most of it is definitely spent in Lincoln because it is the biggest town within the county. Our two biggest expenses are advertising, which most of the advertising we run are for different events in the area, so those kind of are a little bit of all over, mostly Lincoln. And then it also focuses on Abraham Lincoln, so again, that kind of covers more the whole county, at least that ad. When it comes to like grants we give out, I'd say majority of those are also here in Lincoln. I'd say at least probably 80%. And then from there, our other biggest expenses would be salaries. We both live here in Lincoln. So, but I mean, that's not really something you can kind of quantify as where that money's staying because it's going to an individual.
Events, the larger events, are most of them done in Lincoln?
Yeah. Most of the large, not that there isn't other ones. Like I know we do give a grant to like Christmas on Vinegar Hill. That's one that usually receives a grant each year. But a lot of them are here in Lincoln, such as the Logan County Fair. I'm trying to think of other events, like usually Nashville Nights, the downtown group comes to us. But again, majority of those are in Lincoln.
Sporting.
Yeah, a few of the sporting events like FC Soccer and
The wrestling tournament this weekend.
Yeah, they didn't receive a grant, but that is here in town. And the John Welsh basketball tournament, and there's quite a few different ones here in town. Yeah.
Alderman Bateman.
So with that being said, not on the voting agenda next week, I'm going to throw out an extremely radical thought I want everybody to think of. Had this conversation with Alice and Lexi, talked about the numbers. I think it's a real time that this city considers taking tourism back. And all the money stay here in town. Those two girls become city employees. And we use all the hotel motel money generated in this city to promote the city of Lincoln. I have asked several times and it's never been changed. The only money that the Tourism Bureau gets outside the city of Lincoln hotel motel tax money is a $30,000 grant from the state. So we could technically take that on and promote our own city with our own employees. They currently pay us rent for the building. So that would be an expense taken off their books because we own the building and it would be our tourism bureau. Again, I'm just throwing that out there for a thought. Been discussed many times with other people around town and other people sitting in this room for over a 2-year period. So
We
Ms. McCray?
did just receive a Route 66 grant from the state, totaling $100,000. So we
That-
did just receive that.
that's only a one-time grant.
There-
And that could have still happened under the city tourism bureau.
No, because you have to be a certified CVB to apply for that grant. And unfortunately, because of our location, we don't have another certified CVB that oversees us. So for
Plans for the $166,000.
We have a couple different things. We were going to get some giant Lincoln letters over at the Welcome Garden. There's plans for a donut sign over at Mellow Cream, some watermelon benches that I know Steve's been talking about for a while, and then the installation of 2 giants up in Atlanta.
That is a one-time grant.
They're doing it each year up until 2026, so we're expecting at least one more round for the
So
centennial.
this is still a conversation, I'm saying, down the road. It's a thought conversation.
Ms.
100% of the
McClellan?
money's generated here.
I just want to give you my thought. My thought is, it's not broken at this point. The tourism seems to be doing a fantastic job. If you ask me, they're constantly moving and constantly have our name out there, and so I'm kind of with Sam on that. I think it's working, and my thoughts are, I would consider it, consider very highly trying to redo anything at this point. So.
Mr. Eimer?
Did you say a donut sign for Mellow Cream?
Yes.
Why would you do that? He's got enough money to buy 10 donut signs. I mean, why isn't he doing that?
It was brought to us as part of like a Giants project, kind of in conjunction with the Giants Museum in Atlanta. So it would be a giant donut sign that would say, I believe Route 66 on it, since they are on Route 66. That was the correlation to that grant program.
Also, it wouldn't be just the donut sign. Or would it?
Well, that's one of the projects on the grant program. But it would be like in their parking lot area.
So there was a grant that would, keep me honest, there was a grant that they were made available or aware of, and as part of that discussion when they applied for it, there were multiple projects that they included in their request for that grant. The Mellow Cream sign, the Lincoln letters. I didn't know about the benches, but I know I've talked with Steve probably dozens of times about that one. So
is
that's
the-
what happened.
Is the money for the donut sign coming out of the grant, or is it coming out of tourism?
The grant.
Grant.
Oh, I thought you said it was coming out of tourism.
No, it's coming out of the grant, and the grant had a 0% match, so we don't have to match any funds out of our own.
Mr. Downs?
Just for clarification, this grant that you received, only a HBCC could receive and not a city?
Yeah, only a certified CVB can receive this grant, and we would lose our certified status if we were to go under the city of Lincoln, because I spoke with them a couple years ago, and one of the stipulations to be a certified CVB is you have to cover multiple municipalities. So that's how that kind of works. And with other tourism bureaus, such as like Pontiac, for example, they're not a certified CVB, but they're covered by a CVB that's called the Heritage Corridor, and they cover the first 100 miles of Route 66. So if Pontiac ever wants to get a project in on the Route 66 grant, they go to the Heritage Corridor to get on the application. Unfortunately, we fall in an area that doesn't have an overarching certified CVB.
Okay, so because we have an external tourism bureau, we were then eligible to qualify for a $166,000 grant, which we got.
Sorry, $100,000. I think the 66 is the 66 grant. Sorry, $100,000. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mr. Barrett,
And once you lose the designation, there's no going back.
Yeah, it's very hard. I think possibly from what I understand, because this was before my time, I think we were even grandfathered in. Since we were already a CVB, I think they kind of changed their rules a few years ago. But I know the biggest thing for us, if we were to move under the city, when I spoke with them, was we wouldn't be representing multiple municipalities.
Do you know how many certified bureaus there are across the state?
There's 36. Well, 36, I believe. We just added 2 more, so I think we're somewhere in that mid-30s range.
Certified.
Certified.
Yeah, could you explain what that certification means?
Yeah, so
You have to have what, your own facility?
Yeah, there's a couple different. The biggest part is, again, representing those multiple municipalities. And once you have this certified status, you qualify for the grant we receive each year, which is part of the LTCB grant program that the state of Illinois has, and that's what those 36 certified CVBs qualify for. And those CVBs are also part of an organization called IDA, which is the Illinois Destinations Association. Non-certified bureaus can also be part of this group as well, but they do have to pay more in like dues. These are usually, this is where I go in the spring and fall when they have conferences. And it covers the whole state of Illinois.
Kevin, can you speak into your microphone, please?
Most tourism bureaus are not CVBs. They're
I know that,
privately
I
owned
know that.
city
I worked
tourism.
with the Tourism Bureau for 12 years, so, yeah.
I was just getting at, there's a lot more that's not CVBs than there is CVBs.
And they don't necessarily have the same certification or qualifications that, at least from the tourism directors that I know. I mean, it is a special designation, and when you lose those designations, you lose a lot for your community.
I will say, with the initial conversation about going down, if the council chooses to change that percentage, I think 85% is too extreme. But I did have conversations with the treasurer last week about it, and if the council chooses to keep it funded at 95%, then so be it. But just know that there are other things that we're not going to be able to do at the city that we have been able to do in the past, because that fund has been healthy for a number of years and it's not so healthy anymore, which means we now got to get very selective in the things that we would like to do with the funds we have available. So just something to consider. Okay, Ms. Rolfs.
If the city took over the tourism aspect, and we have 2 more employees, I mean, I don't know what kind of insurance or anything that you people have then, but where would they fall in our line of employees? How much more money would the city be expected? Would we be expected to do insurance on those employees? What would be our additional expenses that we would not get reimbursed, most likely from the state? And what kind of a situation do we as a council do? Are we diluting what our focus is supposed to be by taking on such a job as tourism?
Those are valid questions. To answer the first one, benefits, I would think that would come with that role. I couldn't imagine anybody, even the ladies that are in those roles right now at tourism, would be interested if there weren't. And I do know at tourism, you guys have conversations about benefit packages and things like that to make sure that their employees are taken care of. So yeah, that's a consideration.
No.
But the other part that was brought up, and I forgot who said it, was that there is a savings as well to the Bureau by the fact that they pay the city $12,000 a year for the use of that building. I don't know if that's enough to offset it or even take into serious consideration, but it is a fact. Mr. Conzo?
To answer the question about insurance, if they're city employees, they would be eligible for the same type of insurance that the other full-time city employees are eligible for. There isn't any debating that. That's just, that's the way it would be. Salary, I don't know what that would be, but obviously there would be salary. So you're going to have those expenses, and you're going to have IMRF, Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, which covers civilian employees for the city. Covers all civilian employees. Street
I feel there's
departments.
a lot of information we need yet before we're ready to make that decision, especially like next week.
Well, no.
Oh, yeah,
there
that
wouldn't
was,
be.
I think that was just a thought starter from Mr. Bateman. For,
Someone else to do research besides me.
I do research, Kevin.
I just,
Mr. Conzo?
yeah, just to wrap up what I was saying, you would incur those expenses, and you would lose, as the mayor has pointed out, you would lose that revenue stream that we get from renting the building that tourism pays us.
Thank you.
So what's on the agenda is the agreement as presented at 95%. That's what's being asked of you on the agenda this evening. So place that on the regular agenda.
Regular agenda.
Okay. We will place item number 5 on the regular agenda. Thanks, Ms. McCray.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Okay, next up is item number 6, resolution abating the tax heretofore for the year 2024 to pay debt service on $2,285,000 general obligation bonds, alternative revenue source series 2014 of the city of Lincoln, Logan County, Illinois. Mr. Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. As those of you who've been here a while know, we have done this every year since these bonds were issued. In 2014, this is the TIF district, or Tax Increment Financing District bond, which will be, the payment on that will be complete in 2034. So we are just over halfway through that as we approach 2025. This resolution, approval of this means that the city will be paying for it as it has since its inception from alternative revenue sources rather than issuing a tax levy or including it in the tax levy. So it will not be part of the property tax levy. It will be paid for by other city revenue. If you don't pass this resolution, then they would automatically become part of the tax levy, and we would have to levy that on the residents of Lincoln, which I would not recommend doing, so I certainly recommend approving this resolution and placing it on the agenda, first of all.
Any questions for Mr. Conzo? Okay, place this on the regular agenda? Okay, place item number 6 on the regular agenda. That brings us down to item number 7, resolution abating the tax heretofore for the year 2024 to pay debt service on $3,270,000 general obligation bonds, alternative revenue source series 2018 of the city of Lincoln, Logan County, Illinois. Mr. Conzo.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution abates tax in the same way that the one we just talked about does. This is the bond that was issued, the alternate revenue bond that was issued in 2018. The amount of $3,270,000. This was a 15-year bond, unlike the other one, which was a 20-year bond. This will be paid for right near the end of 2023, I think December of 2023. And the payment on that would come from, instead of coming from the tax levy, would come from the Capital Projects Fund, which the city also has.
This is on the,
Police
This is on the public
headquarters.
safety, the police station.
Questions for Mr. Conzo? Regular agenda? Okay, we'll place item number 7 on the regular agenda as well. Next item up is item number 8, tax levy ordinance 2024. Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mayor. The copy of that is in front of you. We talked about this at the previous committee of the whole meeting 2 weeks ago. I've included some of the things in the agenda packet that you received previously. The comparative tax levies for the years 2012 through 23, and another comparison that goes back as far as 1999, so it goes back 25 years. To look at that one first, you know, I'm not going to read it to you again, go through it again, but I think it's self-explanatory. You see that this is using a house with a fair cash value of $100,000 and an owner-occupied tax exemption. For a person in that situation, their total taxes would have gone up from 8.635% to 9.325%, while the city's portion went down from 1.262% to 0.983% last year. So we're kind of losing ground on this. I have put in the draft of the ordinance, which has been reviewed by the city attorney, a 3.4% increase, which is the cost of living increase that is dictated by the Illinois Department of Revenue. So we would not be exceeding that, keeping in mind that there's about $18 million more in taxable property within the city limits in the last year as opposed to the previous year. This does not represent a tax increase for the average person. This simply is a request to receive about $55,000 more than what we had been receiving. And if you look at the comparisons of what we have had in past years, you will see, that we haven't made any progress toward that, increased that for several years. Other taxing districts within the county have done so. Not all of them, but many of them have. Many of them have taken a very moderate course and increased them by very minimal amounts. Others have increased them by greater amounts. Kind of as a follow-up to this, or kind of as a part of this, and the mayor and I have talked about this, what I have done is gotten actuarial assessments for the firefighters' pension fund. I have one that's in the works for the police pension fund, and I don't have that one yet, but I just received the one yesterday from Lauterbach and Amon, who have certified actuaries, and they did some contributions. And what our annual recommended contribution for us to be fully funded by the year 2040, which would be, ideal, there's 90% is what the law dictates now, but say to go to 100%, for the firefighters' pension fund alone, we would need to put $1,812,000 in that to be fully funded. We're not anywhere near that, so we're just over about $970,000 is about what we've been putting in there. So you can see there's obviously a long way to go. You're not going to make that up overnight, but as I've tried to emphasize in years past, when you pass up these minimal percentages in the tax levy, it's just like saving up for retirement. If you wait till you're 60 years old, you're not going to have much, to start saving. You're not going to have much to retire on. If you start when you begin working at 16 or 17 or 18 or whatever old you are when you start working, and you build it up, you're going to be in a much better position. Well, what we've done is kick this down the road for the last several years. And as a result of that, the gap widens. I was just looking at what we contributed in fiscal year 23-24 for the fire pension fund, and this includes the utility taxes and the PPRT, the property taxes, et cetera. A transfer of $165,000 also includes pension contributions of the firefighters. We contributed, including that, $970,562. In the police pension fund, and I don't have the recommended contribution from the actuary yet on that. Police wasn't much better. It was $1,017,520. So we're well below, we're below where we need to be. We're just over half of where we need to be on fire, and I don't have the actuarial report yet for police, but I suspect it's going to be the same. You're not going to address that overnight. I certainly wouldn't recommend trying to do that all through a tax levy, and certainly wouldn't want to do it not in 1 year. But it's this kind of thing that's made up of building blocks, and one of those blocks is the property tax. And as a result of that, the ordinance that you have in front of you reflects that amount that appears in the packet and is in the comparative tax levies.
Questions for Mr. Conzo? What would the council like to do?
If we're looking at this particular sheet,
Okay.
what would 2024 look like? Would we still be losing our percentage?
Well, it would probably not, because it's because I don't know what the total tax rate would be, but no, we would probably level off, I would guess, if we took and it's impossible to know exactly, because the one factor you don't know is what the dollar amount will be of the taxable property. If it's gonna, it went up considerably last year from the previous year. It might go up by a smaller amount, it might go up by a much larger amount. It's conceivable that it could even go down, even with the full 3.4%. With that 3.4% only amounts to $55,000.
Well, if we look at our percent of total tax from 1999 to 2023, we have gone down considerably.
Yes.
In the percentage that we,
Yeah, but both the tax rate, not to interrupt you, Alderman Rolfe.
That's okay.
But both the tax rate and the city's percentage have both gone down correspondingly.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
That's because the schools
Oh.
have gone way up.
But we
Every
have
time
no,
someone calls me about their taxes, I have to walk them through the thing, and they blame the city. And we have a general fund that's increasing. We're spending the money wisely, but when you got one school district sitting on 25.6 million in surplus, and then turn around and just raise their levy,
yeah.
I'm a no vote. It's only $55,000. I found $55,000 in the budget last week when we were discussing it within 10 minutes. So
But why would you punish the city for something that the school districts are doing? We have no control. We can't go out
I don't
there
want
and
to
tell them
punish
what
the
to do.
citizens any more than they need to be. It's only $55,000.
I
We
think-
have $55,000 laying around in the budget.
I think it's important that people know that this tax is because of the amount of money that the schools get. I mean, they got more ARPA funds probably than anybody in this community. So between that and this tax levy, yes. But I don't think that we need to pull back on what we're doing and say, well, we're gonna do with less money. Things are gonna go up.
It's not like we're generating a bunch of money. That's what I'm getting at. We can find that
Well, that's right, we're not generating a bunch of money. We're generating a small amount of money, and it's not going to impact the citizens anymore.
Ms.
At
Conzo?
least, did I interpret what you're saying? Right?
yes.
It's not going to.
You-
We're not taking more money away from them.
You are correct. And as far as the 55,000 that you can find in the budget, I think that's great. I think we should add that to transfer it into the pensions as well. If you should take that money and this $55,000, that would be an increase in the levy, you're still only adding 110,000, but you can't just do nothing because, well, it's only 55,000. It's like saying, well, you need 100 bricks to build something. Well, I've only got 10 of them, so, I'm not going to bother to try to get the rest of them. This does not represent a tax increase in the tax rate. It will represent, we'll be getting, like I said, $55,000 more. There's not, at the very, and I think Alderman Rolfs brought this up earlier, at the most, it's going to may level out that tax rate. So you're not really increasing the tax rate on the residents of the city.
And the 3.4 citizens,
Right.
then I can't see it not going with what they said.
How's the rest of the council feel? We have to come to an agreement on an amount, or you'll be talking about it again next week.
Yeah, they'll have to vote on it.
Yeah.
And there'll be a
But they
public
can still
hearing.
talk about it.
So if I recommend that we put the 3.4 as our tax levy, then if people voted down next week, they just voted down? They can amend it too. Or they can amend it.
But we have to file by the end of the year for this. So we have to come to an agreement on an amount or a percentage, whatever the, yeah.
You have to come to that agreement next week.
So if 3.4, if that is what goes on the agenda and it gets voted down, then there will have to be some sort of an amendment made to come to an agreement
Well,
on
the
that.
amendment would take place before we voted on the 3.4, right?
But we can't walk out of the room not having otherwise we'll be coming back in for a special voting meeting. So, what would we like to put on the agenda?
3.4%, please.
See nods from the left side of the room. What's the right side of the room? Okay. So we'll put it on the regular agenda next week for 3.4%. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, next item up is item number 8, demolition of 605 Lincoln Avenue. Mr. Woodhull.
Thank you. This property, I'm sure everyone is familiar with it. It's a large property on the corner over there on Lincoln Avenue. It's been in this condition, or its current condition, for better than a decade at this point. We bid it out like normal. All Industrial Group out of Springfield was a low bid. However, that bid was roughly, it ends up equating to about 1.5%, which in the purchasing policy, the City of Lincoln purchasing policy, it's under the 2% difference, and Harold Goodman Inc. would have been the local responsible vendor, which means they are technically the low bidder. If you wish to demolish this property, then that's who I would recommend.
Alderman Bateman.
Who owns it?
It's a private owner.
So
Say
how
the
do we
name out
take,
loud?
how do we take ownership of it once we demolish it so we can sell the property?
At this point, we would put a lien on it. We wouldn't take ownership. They still own
He
it.
would, he would have the opportunity to sign it over to the,
Yeah, I believe they put it up for sale. This person did.
okay. But we put a lien on it. He puts it up, the property itself up for sale. We get our money back.
Yes, the lien goes with the property.
That's correct, right? It's not like our other liens where we gotta wipe them off.
It's not a tax sale debt, yeah.
Well, there is admittedly 2 years of back taxes on it already, but I think they're trying to recoup that. they're trying to sell it for approximately $4,000 more than what they purchased it for. So, I think it's to try to recoup them taxes and some way, somehow, pocket a little bit extra money too. Maybe to cover the realty fee, the realty fees that go along with that. Seems like a somewhat unrealistic proposition. But that's just me. That's conjecture for me. This is again, Mr. Biden, to answer your question in a more forthwith manner. Yes, this is not unlike this is different from the previous liens in that it wouldn't stay with the property. Now, granted, our demolition lien for it is going to be much probably higher than what the property is going to be worth post demolition. But that's ultimately the concern of the property owner at that point. So,
Mr. Barrett.
2 questions. How much was the demolition?
It's right there.
Okay. And if this person just walks away from, the owner just walks away from the property, not paying the taxes over a number of years, right? Then how does that work
It's
exactly?
So they've not paid two so far. If someone were to buy the taxes, so far they've been bought for 2 years. Someone were to buy it for the 3rd year, then going into the 4th year, they can file for a tax deed. At which point it's another year plus process to purchase or to obtain the property through the courts based on the fact that they've paid the taxes for those 3 years.
But then does the lien go away?
Yes.
If they, even after 4 years or 5 years or whatever
Yes,
it is.
the lien does go away in that particular instance.
Tax sale.
Yeah, on the tax sale, the lien does go away. And the only way, if there's like, say, you want to say a quote unquote easy way to acquire the property at that point, if the trustee themselves is acquiring the taxes and not a private person or business, then at times, and we've seen this before with the city, that they'll sell the property to the city. Because we have a lien, and we've probably been maintaining the property at that point via mowing and whatnot. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, and with this particular property, we owe it to the residents of that neighborhood to take action on this property. I know Mr. Parrott and I have gone down there on occasion in the past and was dealing with other issues, and it's the same story in just different hands. And so, it's not a reflection of the individuals. It's just the reality of the situation. So I think it's,
Animal control removed 16 dead animals out of the yard.
yeah. Okay, so is the council okay putting this on the regular agenda for Harold Goodman, Inc. for $16,000?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we'll put on the regular agenda. Okay, next item is item number 10, an ordinance regarding baseline building codes. Mr. Hoblet.
So I circulated an ordinance to the council and tried to provide the best explanation that I could to try to educate you guys a bit in regards to why I'm bringing this before you. The state of Illinois has made it the prerogative that to try to encourage the municipalities of the state to adopt new international building codes or to be forcefully adopt the state building codes, which are based upon the international building codes. And there's no action done by the council. Then come January 1st, you'll be subject to the most current version of the state building codes. And that's only it's typically in regards to new construction, new commercial construction, and new residential construction for their requirements for new builds. That provides that, again, that the international building codes that you do have, if you have adopted one, has to be within 10 years. Currently, the one that we use is with 2012. So that needs to be updated. Mr. Woodhull is working on said update. That takes some time. It takes a long period of time because you get those building codes and you have to amend, subtract, try to fit them to your respective needs that you have within the city. To that extent, because it's not within 10 years, we need to, or it's prudent for us to, yes, we'll probably be a subject to the state building codes, but we can elect to be within 10 years of the state building codes and elect to take the least restrictive measure for each requirement within that said 10 years. This is what's called a stopgap ordinance until we have new building codes that we have gone through ourselves and taken on a new one. I believe Mr. Woodhull probably working with a more current version of whatever we're going to be adopting. So we're not doing this, 3, 4, 5 years from now again.
Alderman Bateman.
I read this several times. My suggestion is regular agenda.
I also would highly recommend that.
Questions for Mr. Hoblet? Ms. Rolfs? Your microphone, please.
Thank you. Within the codes, the violations, are those established by the city, or do those go right along with the codes?
That's a city ordinance.
Okay,
These are building codes.
so just the codes themselves then, though, but if somebody's in violation of those codes, it's something we establish,
The building
right?
code, yes.
Okay.
These are the actual building codes, though, not the violations. He's got to rework the codes to bring them up to state statutes.
Right.
Nothing to do with the violations. We can later change the violation dollar amount if that's what you're talking about. He's got to rework the building
I just
codes
wanted to
themselves.
make sure of that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, place this on the regular agenda. Okay, we'll place item number 10 on the regular agenda. This brings us down to announcements. Mr. Bateman.
One thing I didn't read in there, Wes, and a lot of cities are doing it, and it's at a great detrimental to the builder. Is this one of them things where the state is going to force sprinkler systems?
That's something I would amend out
Could
immediately.
amend that out,
Correct.
even though the fire chief disagrees with you?
That's a discussion we will have, but it's currently
I
amended.
mean, that's a
out.
huge expense.
currently
and it will
amended out
stop
of-
construction of a lot of buildings.
It is currently amended out of our code.
Okay.
If you look at the amendments for the 2012 IRC, that is an amendment that's not. Now, that's not commercial.
But
Talking
you
about
are
residential.
able to amend it out of the new codes also.
Correct. We can, yes. We can
Okay.
amend- That's what the amendments are for. and That's what's going to take some time, but
Sorry, Chief.
that's residentially.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Alderman Parrott.
Yeah, just clarifying, that would be for residential, not commercial, because we don't want to have commercial buildings without sprinkler systems.
But some cities
Thank
have
you.
forced residential.
Yeah, that's the expense that we don't.
Even the 2012 IRC requires it. And to the best of my knowledge, I would say south of 80, upwards of 80% of the amended codes include that.
Okay.
That amendment out because of cost.
Thank you.
Place that on the regular agenda. Okay, that brings us down to announcements. I've got a couple here. The first is a huge thank you to the chief and his firefighting staff and to the surrounding areas and the first responders that came in from the Paramedics Association, Lincoln Rural, probably EMA on scene for the fire at the Idle Hour building this weekend. Unfortunate for the community and the Coppinger family. We'll stay tuned and see what their future plans are. I think they're still just trying to gather their thoughts and figure out what next are. Chief, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't really have anything to add to that. The investigation is still open right now, so we can't really discuss any of that. But I do think, like you said, the agencies that did respond, the community that did come out and help, offered water, offered food again. We do appreciate that because that was a tough day.
Yeah, I know we were down there and Cary Groves opened up the McIntyre's facility. They were actually supposed to have a coat drive that day, and the place was filled with coats to give out to those who need them. But she quickly jumped in her car and went and grabbed water and snacks and stuff for the firefighters and staff and set it up outside. So huge thanks to her as well in the community. Mr. Parrott?
Just a quick question, Chief. You said you can't really speak to, the investigation, but is the building a safe building?
I will let Wes answer that.
No.
Okay.
That's hard to, without a literal engineering report, from my eyes, it's certainly salvageable, but that's subjective. The shell itself is hard to say if it was compromised. It's brick. The roof structure looked to be in pretty good shape, other than where his guys tore it up, putting holes in it.
One hole.
Either way, no, it looked okay, but then again, you have a shell of a building. Do you gut it from the floor to the to the roof and start over?
We're not
tear it
blocking any
down?
streets down over there.
Absolutely not. No,
And
it's a standalone building. Nothing else was
No other
neighbor-
buildings?
No,
or,
no, sir. But that's going to take some time to determine what they want to do, I'm sure. And
Thank you.
we'll see.
So
It's in bad
I
shape.
did notice that there was caution tape up there, but that it's been ripped down on one side. Is the intention for people not to walk near that structure and stay away from it, or
That
what are
was-
we telling the public to do?
I didn't.
So the caution tape that was set up, we put that up that night while the investigators are getting their stuff together because we can't turn the property backward to the owners and lose chain of custody of that property. So therefore, that's why the caution tape was originally put up on the front, and we also had Lincoln Police at the back of the building as well to keep people out, so we could retain custody of that building while the investigation is being done. The building was turned back over to the property owners later that evening, and we probably just left the tape up just to keep people away from it. But that was the fire department that put that tape up.
Okay. Right.
Safety wise, there's no reason to not use that sidewalk.
So the sidewalk can be opened up.
So yeah.
I believe on our end you can, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We'll have to remove that tape then. Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else on that one? Okay, the next thing is that I spoke with Senator Turner today about some other things, and she spoke to me in the past this weekend on another topic that I want to share with the council. She is introducing a bill that would ask the state to remediate all of the buildings on the LDC property and turn it over to the city. So that's a huge ask. I don't know where that will go, and I suspect that it'll be a hard-fought battle with a lot of questions. But I just want to make the council aware that that is taking place, and if you hear about it, that is why. Okay, Mr. Reimer.
You say they're talking about handing the buildings over to us? Does that?
No, they're going to demolish the request will be to demolish the buildings and then hand us the property that's cleaned up. Yeah.
That would be good. Okay.
Yeah.
Get the buildings into.
Well, no, because we certainly don't want to take on that because there's a huge cost and liability involved with that. What that amount is yet to be seen, but just know she's working on that bill. Okay. All right. The last thing that I have, Miss Rolfs brought this up to me today, and I thought it was worth sharing. She had read some information about Illinois American Water and a $557 million project, more or less. Hopefully I stated that correct. Okay, so I want to make the council and the public aware that we received no notification that I'm aware of at the city, but on December 5th, Illinois American Water was granted another rate increase for the ICC, or from the ICC. That is to support the $557 million worth of capital improvement projects they've done throughout the communities that they serve. We have already seen a rate increase here in Lincoln as a result of the water tower going up and then the new treatment facility, which some of us took a tour of. So I'm hoping that we won't see another rate increase as a result of this, because the rate increase, the way I read it, is not across the board. It's just the districts that they choose to set their rates in. So I have a request out to Illinois American Water to try to gather more clarification on this. Once I receive it, I'll bring it back and share it with you and the public as well. But keep in mind, it's a public utility, and we have very little to no control over what they do as far as setting their rate structures. Anything to add, Mr. Attorney, on that one?
No.
Okay. Okay.
We need to talk to the ICC, though. I'm tired of them raising our.
Well, I think, and I've spoke with Mr. Bounds about this too, and it's mere speculation, really, but there is a process where people can come in and they can speak to it almost in like a public hearing format. But unless you know about when and where those are going to be, it's kind of hard to take action and attend those. And in this particular case, I don't think we were notified. Mr. Parrott, did you have something?
Just another announcement.
Yep. Floor's yours.
So yeah, just want to thank tourism, Alice and her team, and Lexi with the past week's Christmas parade. It was cold, but it wasn't windy like it was the day before, and I think we had a pretty decent turnout for even the cold. I thank Kevin for the use of his golf cart, and Peggy for getting all the candy that was thrown out, and I know a lot of kids received a lot of candy. And so I thought it was a pretty well attended event and a good event. So just really appreciative of all those that helped.
Yep. And before I move on, Walt, did you want to speak about the wrestling tournament this weekend? I was just blown away when I went out there this weekend, how many people were there. Couldn't even get a parking spot in the student lot.
Everything went well. Had a lot of people visit town. We had about 350 wrestlers pre-registered for the or 450 wrestlers pre-registered, and I think we ended up with probably around 410 that actually showed up. Started wrestling just a little after 9. We were done by 2:15. That's the earliest we've ever been done. We changed some things up, used a software which we have been using, but we added more to it, which helped us out, helped us execute better. It was a good day. It was, hopefully the people went out and spent money in the community and visited places and did things. So, we were happy it went well for us.
Well, thank you for doing that. I know it's a lot of hard work on your part.
That was our 18th tournament.
And that was piggybacked on against the high school tournament there on Saturday.
Yeah, they had the JV tournament on Saturday, so that's kind of why we do it that weekend, because the mats are already set up, the gym's already set up for us. We just have to go in and make some modifications. So they wrestle on 4 mats, but we take down and put smaller circles. So we actually wrestle on 8 mats. So we have eight matches going on at one time.
Yeah.
Ms. Rolfs.
Did we get a picture of Kevin's vehicle?
He's got a video.
I think we should put part of that on it just to show the joy that we have here at City Council. It was
Mr. Bateman.
wonderful.
Yeah.
First correction I got to make. It's Mrs. Bateman's golf cart. That is not Kevin's golf cart at all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Mrs. Bateman's gardening cart.
decorate it?
I
Oh my
decorated
gosh. Oh, it was
It-
wonderful.
I have
The
to say,
music was great.
it was cute. It was Run Run Rudolph was our theme, so I had an actual lighted Rudolph with a red nose out front. Took her golf cart with some cardboard from work, made it look like a sleigh.
Yep.
It had over 500 lights on it. I want to thank Steve and David and Charity Hutchins and her daughter, Emma. Emma had the better walking idea. Charity has rethought that, and that probably won't happen again. Wanda and I manned the cart. We had good music playing, and for the first time ever, we had candy left over because of the crowd was down substantially. But I want to thank everybody that came out. It was a very cold evening, not as cold as some of the days back in the 70s when I marched in the parade playing music, but it was a good parade. Thanks for tourism. They do a great job every year, so it was a good thing. A lot of people had the thoughts that we were going to cancel. You can't cancel a Christmas parade; that don't work. But it was fun. It was a fun float. I like the theme idea. So
Okay. And then
Thank you, Peggy, for letting us use that.
the last thing I wanted to mention was the painting. Did you want to speak about the painting?
Brady's will be starting painting Thursday. They'll be here at 7 a.m. They're going to start two of the offices downstairs. And then after our meeting as long as things go okay with them, after our meeting Monday, then Tuesday they will do the council chambers. As long as their game plan stays on track, that's what they're planning.
she's losing sleep over it, so I hope it gets done.
And then flooring's next.
The flooring will be the very last. Like downstairs in the hallway, that'll be the last thing they'll do, is because of tracking back and forth. The only thing that they would have to do on either an evening or a weekend would be the sewer office there, because there's no way they can paint and us be open. But everything else, the offices we can maneuver around to where they can paint and not be in there. And back in the fire department, they're here all the time, so they're just gonna have to work around everything.
Okay. Thanks. Any other announcements that anybody'd like to make this evening? Mr. Landers.
Yes, tomorrow will be the last scheduled leaf pickup for the season. The landfill, I'm assuming with the cold weather Thursday, we'll probably close it Thursday just because of the conditions. And then I should be open Friday and Saturday and Sunday this week. And then the following week, next week, it goes back to Wednesday and Saturday until at what point we close it down for the season.
And the fence is?
The fence is going up for along Illinois American Water's property line. Andrew's staff and the street department staff have been working on preparing for the building. So it looks like we'll probably be setting that building, the new attendance building next week sometime. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get it finished up, but hopefully by spring when we're ready to open up, the building will be complete.
Okay, thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Alderman Downs made the motion to adjourn. Alderman Parrott second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. This meeting is adjourned at 7:37 p.m.